Hi guys, Tuber here with a new video, and this video will be a similar video I made for the double DPS comps in 2s. I will be making the best comps that you could make for each DPS, in 2v2. So the best comps you would be with another healer, not double DPS comps. I have a separate video for that, so if you want to check that out, you can always check that out. But these are the best comps in general for 2v2. It's not going to be a tier list form. It is looking like a tier list, but it is not a tier list. It's just the easiest way to showcase which specs are pairing together very well. I'm going to show you one DPS comp, one DPS with a healer, and every single time I'm going to switch the DPS out with, for example, another healer, or with the same healer if it is the best one yet. I'm going to spoil you guys that I'm going to also give you some healer comps. Why? Like some off healer comps, because we all know resto druids are probably like the most S tier spec out there in 2v2, like a healer wise. Then you have like 2 or 3 healers that are like somewhat beneath resto druid, and then you have like the other healers which are pretty much not that good in 2s. But I'm going to explain why. But also, I come from them for them because I know some people play those healers, so you want to have the best pairing possible for those healers. Now, with that out of the way, the intro was quite long, but I wanted to preface that. So let's start with Demon Hunter. If you have a choice and you can choose your healer, I would for sure go for Resto Druid. Big surprise, Demon Hunter Resto Druid is actually very strong. I'm going to explain why very quickly. Demon Hunter, Havoc, Demon Hunter does have like 3 big defensives. Actually 4 if you count Glimpse, which is a PvP talent where if you're doing the Vengeful Retreat, you get like immunity to CC, but also remove CC, like for example Disarm, but also have a damage reduction for the amount of time you're going to spend in the air. You also have Blur, you have Darkness, and Netherwalk. All of those 4 abilities are actually very strong in 2s because it's very hard to navigate, especially in that dampening, like 2v2 is a dampening bracket, right? Druids, like Demon Hunters, are actually very strong in those brackets. You don't have like exceptional self-heals, although you have some self-heal here and there, but it's very little compared to like in Shadowlands, for example. But with Resto Druid also being very slippery, very hard to catch, and if you want to switch between a Demon Hunter and a Resto Druid, the issue is the distance between them. And if a Resto Druid is playing very well, he could like full hot shoe, and he can run away, drink, and then come back. And if they went for the Resto Druid like for a split second, the issue is Resto Druids have enough tools to actually survive for a bit of time, and then you'll lost your opportunity whenever Blur is on CD. So that's the only opportunity where you can kill a Demon Hunter is by CCing the Resto Druid and go for the Demon Hunter. It's actually a very difficult comp to face in 2s, but especially the comps that could go well versus them are, for example, Subtlety Rogue comps, because they can actually kill Havoc Demon Hunters in a stun. It's very hard to, again, if you get cheap shotted, your Blur, the effectiveness of Blur is like non-existent as well. So again, that comp very strong. I would say a high contender, like a second, because I'm going to say Resto Druid for most DPSs. But if you can choose another DPS to play with a Demon Hunter, I would play with Resto Shaman. It's very, very effective, very strong, very aggressive, way more aggressive than Resto Druid, because the Resto Druid with like a Demon Hunter is not going to be able to play Feral Affinity. It's going to be very difficult because you don't want to be target, right? So Demon Hunters, Resto Shaman, very strong. You have like a lot of CC at your disposal. You can actually run pretty well as a Havoc Demon Hunter, and the only issue with that comp is Resto Shaman actually is a great kill target in most situations. But I would say that the aggressiveness of that comp is very fun to play. Like Resto Shaman can actually weave a lot of lava bursts. Stormkeepers actually lightning lasso as well to actually get the kill, and you can lightning lasso the healer, and the DPS can then just stun the healer at the same time, the DPS at the same time, so you can have a cross CC, and at that point you can actually win like games very effectively. Again, very hard versus Subtlety, but that's a known counter to Havoc Demon Hunters. So I'm going to put the healers at C tier, and the DPS I already saw, I'm going to put them at D tier. Feral Druid. So Feral Druid, the best healers for Feral Druid is actually not resto druid. You could play with resto druid, but I would say either a holy priest or a disc priest is actually very effective. Although they DR on Cyclone and Fear, the thing is, Feral Druid use Cyclone as a DPS reset kind of, because you can have with the PvP talent a Feral Frenzy for free with like a combo spender, so you can actually like continue the onslaught. And Disc Priest can actually play very aggressive with a Feral Druid. Holy Priest the same. I just think you can die. Like this comp is very effective at dying, I would say, but it's also very effective at killing people. The effectiveness of that comp actually lies within the Feral Druid being able to kite the damage out. You don't want to face tank everything if you don't have like juice. Don't stand there and like take the juice from the enemy team. You want to run away, try to heal you a bit. You can also do some self heal, although it's very pathetic from a Feral Druid. You can always do that. Maybe a restuff if you can. You can always like try to wait for the Yarsu to do another Cyclone. You're going to eat a lot of interrupts as a Feral Druid in that comp, because again, they want to interrupt your Cyclone, but that makes it very free for Disc Priest to actually deal damage, because it's not very like interruptible versus a Feral Druid, for example. The problem with that comp is Feral Druid is very squishy, and in my eyes, you can die versus a subtlety rogue. Again, subtlety rogue is probably the best spec of that. Like someone that is very proficient at subtlety rogue is going to destroy that bracket. But Feral Druid, I would say those two healers are the best, and I don't see Resto Druid, like for example, a good comp with Feral Druid. You can do that, but again, the good thing is about Resto Druid is they like to heal. People are also proficient at surviving, and if you're not surviving as a Feral Druid, well, the problem is you're going to spend a lot of mana just like making your DPS survive, and you cannot play as aggressive as you should be in twos as the Resto Druid. So that's why those two are the better healers for me, Feral Druid wise. BM Hunter. BM Hunter, I think it's not a surprise that Resto Druid is the best pairing for a BM Hunter. The overlapping DRs are not existent. For example, you can trap and then Cyclone, and that's a full CC chain. You can also have the Resto Druid actually stun. You can also have your stun. You can cross CC with double stun into a trap, into a Cyclone. You can also play very aggressive as a Resto Druid. You can help really the BM Hunter to shine in those matchups. So that's a great matchup. You could also play with another like Fear DR, for example, with Disc Priest, very effective. I do think Holy Priest can work in twos. The issue is they lack mana. That's the only issue. I do feel like Resto Shaman with a BM Hunter, you're overlapping like the Polymorph DR, which is Trap, which is not that good, but you can play very aggressive as a Resto Shaman as well. There is an option also to play with, let's say, with the Mistweaver Monk, but I think the Mistweaver Monk, the issue is the better Mistweaver Monk in that bracket is actually a Fistweaver. The issue is with Fistweaving a BM Hunter. The BM Hunter is actually going to kite all the time, and as you know, Fistweaver needs to have uptime, and if the DPS decides to go for the BM Hunter, you can sometimes feel you're going to get kited by your own teammate. So for me, it's going to be not really the best option. I think you can play with either a Disc Priest or a Holy Priest, but the best comp is with a Resto Druid. I think that is one of the most S tier comps out there. But again, it's not really a tier list, but I'm saying, like, if you can choose, at least choose a Resto Druid. If you cannot choose, I would say a Priest, maybe Resto Shaman or Mistweaver Monk. I would not play with a Holy Paladin, for example. You could play with a Holy Paladin, actually, but then he needs to play blind. And the issue is, it depends versus who you're facing, most likely. But I do feel like with Resto Druid, you have way more agency. Survivor Hunter is the same, to be honest. Resto Druid, the best pairing, and you can have a Disc Priest or a Holy Priest. It kind of functions the same as a BM Hunter, but I would say right now the effectiveness of Survival Hunter has been lowered because of the removal of like dispel, like your feign death dispel, your I would say way squishier than Shadowlands, where you could dispel everything with like Craven Stratagem. That is gone. So I feel like the power level of a Survival Hunter has been lowered. Especially since Resto Druid is that much meta, it's also very hard to have like effective traps. You need to like stun trap every single time. You could also just like grab like Harpoon into like a trap. It's very difficult because if the resto druid knows, he can actually like dodge it because of like shapeshifting. So again, very hard. Also, treants are like eating traps left, right, and center. It's very difficult. So those are the healers for the Survivor Hunter. MM Hunter, I would say the same, to be honest. Those three healers are the better ones for MM. I would still say the Resto Druid is the better one. I would say Disc Priest is the second one, and Holy Priest is the third one, probably. You could play with a Holy Paladin, then you can get a bop and you can effectively do your whole go. But I feel like you're going to cheese it out. Like you will have to bop him to like have effective damage. And I feel like, again, those three healers are way too better at doing their job with MM Hunter. Assassination Rogue. Assassination Rogue, again, the main comp that you are going to face is probably Assassination Rogue with a Resto Druid. The second or third best healers are like Disc Priest and Holy Priest. I would say there is also a world where you could play with Resto Shaman. It feels like a rogue mage kind of comp where you have Hex as a polymorph replacement. The issue is, I feel like you're not going to survive. Resto Shaman is not really that good at making people survive. Compared to those three, it's a very aggro comp though. You can actually win in the opener, but I think the difficulty lies at the Assassination Rogue surviving the damage. It's like it's not like a subtlety rogue where you can actually survive with double vanish, and they're not going to go for a subtlety rogue. While Assassination Rogue, you're going to get trained down like anything in the world, right? So again, those are the comps that I would play as an Assassination Rogue. Of course, the first one being the most effective one, and then second and third like kind of equal. And I would say the Resto Shaman as your last option. You could also play with mistweaver, but they can actually like dispel your dots with like an incap, which effectively you don't want that, right? Also, Song of Chi doesn't work as well with an Assassination Rogue. Subtlety Rogue, that is the best spec in 2s. You can play with double DPS very effectively as well, like I said in the video from my previous video. But if you want to play with a healer, you want to play with something actually quite aggressive. I would say Disc Priest Rogue is actually very strong. A Holy Priest with a Subtlety Rogue is also very strong. Resto Druid Rogue is basically immortal. So if you want to play an immortal spec, immortal comp, it's Subtlety Rogue with Resto Druid. And if those two are playing very well, you're going to win games. The issue with that comp though, you're not going to win on mana because effectively the enemy is going to deal always more damage than a sub-rogue. You are very bursty, that's it. So you have to win on your damage and your goes. If you're not winning in like the opportunities that you create with CC, you're not going to win in the long run because Resto Druid is going to spend a lot of mana to keep you alive and to keep himself alive, compared to the other healer where he only needs to deal with the burst. So you will see that the mana of your healer is going to be always lower than the enemy. But that's normal because you're playing like not really a consistent damage dealer, like for example Demon Hunter. Like Demon Hunter is a very good dampener. He's going to make the other guy very quickly. But Subtlety Rogue is not going to the target. He's going to effectively win in a shadowy duel or in a smoke bomb or in a great CC chain. So those are the comps that you would play as a sub rogue. So the next one would be Outlaw Rogue, I guess. No, Outlaw Rogue is a bit further down the tier list. I would say it's not really a tier list, but whatever. Outlaw Rogue, let's talk. It's Resto Druid. Outlaw Rogue, it's a dampener comp. You're going to win on mana most likely because you're going to make the other healer use a lot of mana to recoup the CC that they're going to get. You can have a great CC chain, which is very annoying to deal with. You could also play with a Disc Priest, which is effectively better to play aggressive, I would say. Those two are working quite well. Resto Shaman, Outlaw Rogue, it can work. I think the issue with that is at one point you're going to feel very squishy because it is not Shadowlands Outlaw Rogue where you would like survive a lot of damage. This is like Dragonflight Outlaw Rogue where you're going to deal a lot more damage than in Shadowlands, but you're going to effectively die more quickly. I do feel like Resto Shaman can work as with an Outlaw Rogue, but I do feel like the better comp is always going to be like either a resto druid or one of the two healers, which are like holy priest or disc priest. I think this comp is working wonders. You will win games basically because of your existence, and you can lose games because you were not prepared. But to be honest, the better you are, the better it's going to be a feeling to play that comp. So let's talk about Fury Warrior. I think Fury Warrior is actually doing very well in twos. I think the best warrior in twos is a Fury Warrior actually, and I think it's Magnus if I'm not mistaken. I think he's top of the ladder, and I think he plays with a Resto Druid. Resto Druid is not the best comp for a warrior in my opinion. I think why that comp works is purely because Resto Druid is busted right now. Normally it should not work. The best healer, in my opinion, if you actually want to play aggressive, is with a Fistweaver. Fistweaver Fury Warrior, it's very hard to deal with. You have to CC the Fury Warrior because whenever he does his go, you need to stop it. But if you don't CC the Fistweaver, he's not going to lose healing. So effectively, you can win games because of that. Also very aggressive. But you can also play with a Resto Shaman. That's also effectively a very good comp. Also very aggressive. You will feel like you're going to have struggles with like longer games where, again, the healing of a Resto Shaman is going to be quite low. And I think the other comp that you could play is either with a Preservation Evoker. That is a very aggro comp. Like this is going to win games basically purely because of damage. Healing throughput is going to be non-existent at one point of the match, but I think with all the buffs that we got for Preservation Evoker, it could be interesting. But I do feel like that comp is very fun to play. So if you are looking for a good healing comp for a Fury Warrior, that is the one that you could play. But else, I would say, since I didn't mention Holy Paladin Fury Warrior or Holy Paladin Arms Warrior is also a good comp. The issue is you're going to lack on the damage department. I do feel like a healer in twos needs to participate in damage. He's not going. If you want to play like defensively and passively as a healer, that's good for you. But often or not, you will feel like sometimes you need that extra oomph to finish off targets, or you need the extra CC, like for example, Resto Druid has in twos. But Holy Paladin, they have CC, but they have to open themselves up for a kick, for example, Repentance, or they need to Hajj every single time, and so they need to be closer, which is also effectively going to get CC'd because of that. So those are the comps that you would play if you are playing a warrior. Arms Warrior, I'm going to say it's the same. So ideally, Fistweaver, or else you can play with a Resto Shaman, or maybe a Preservation Evoker or a Holy Paladin. It depends if you are going to play with a mate or not. Again, I think Resto Druid, that's working only because Resto Druid is actually very strong right now. But you're going to play way more defensively with a warrior, because if he gets stunned and he doesn't have a trinket, you have to be ready to heal. And if you're like going Feral Affinity, or you're going to try to cast Rafts or Starfires as a boomy like Resto Druid Affinity, boomy Affinity, you're going to do a lot of damage, but if you get kicked at the wrong time, it's game over. So I think Arms Warrior is too squishy to play with Resto Druid in my opinion. I think you have way more ways to play aggressive with another comp. Arms Warrior is very much a dampener comp, like a spec normally in twos, but you can play very aggressive, let's say, with a Preservation Evoker, so it's not a dampener comp like spec, and the same for Resto Shaman. You don't want to dampen with that comp. You want to effectively win with a CC chain, or either with the damage of a Resto Shaman paired with a sharpened blade that can always effectively get a lot of wins because of that. Augmentation Evoker, I don't know if I want to like mention it, but to be honest, you're better off playing with a double DPS. You don't have the DPS to actually play with a healer. That's really a disgusting comp. Like, you're going to dampen the enemy probably. But even then, I don't think it's very fun to play. So again, I would suggest to not do that in twos. Devastation Evoker, I have seen some people play very well with a Resto Shaman because of the effective damage that you can produce. I would not play with something else, in my opinion. You could play with Disc Priest, but you will see you will lack some healing at one point in the match. Resto Shaman has that. The issue is, I think, effectively, you want to play with an aggressive spec that has some healing. And I would say there's a world where you can play with Resto Druid, but you will like some damage from the resto druid compared to a resto shaman. You could maybe play double dragon with preservation evoker, but again, you're going to kite the healing from the preservation evoker, and if you're standing still, you're not playing devastation evoker correctly. So I think that's effectively a noob trap, I would say, and I would not suggest to play double evoker, so devastation evoker with a preservation evoker. I would not do that. And then we are talking with Frost Decay, and Frost Decay, I'm going to be honest, there is like 2 or 3 comps for them, and they need to play very aggressive, which is Resto Shaman with a Frost Decay, and you want to double grip into, like, let's say the root totem from the Earthbind totem from the Earth Grab, excuse me, from the Resto Shaman, and then you have your go. You can also, you should not play lasso, but you can always lasso one target, it's 5 seconds, so you could effectively help the Frost Decay by doing that. Again, you can play aggressive as well, so if they're both stunned, you can actually like do some lava bursts and some stormkeepers, but you have to play aggressive. If you don't play aggressive, you're not going to win. With a mistweaver, maybe you can do that. It's also a possibility. Helps if the Frost Decay a bit, but you will see some comps you're going to have a difficult time to actually like get a win. That just is how it is with Frost Decay. And the other comp I would suggest is with a Preservation Evoker, where you double grip into a big deep breath with a Fire Breath from the Preservation Evoker, and you doing your go with a Pillar of Frost. You can effectively win the game in the opener. But again, what you need to do as a Frost Decay is train the healer most likely. Like, you're going to double grip, try to kill the healer, rinse and repeat until they don't have a trinket or a response to your damage. But you're going to get countered by these arms. And in general, since like rogue specs are very popular, Survivor Hunter has also a disarm. I would say Arms Warrior, Fury Warrior, you're also going to encounter some. Windwalker is also insanely strong in 2, so you're going to play versus counters every single game. You have some games where you're going to be bit more relaxed. I would say versus a Retribution Paladin, it's an auto win, for example. But again, it's very difficult come to play and to navigate. And then you have Unholy Decay, which is a dampener. You could play with a Resto Druid and it's going to be fantastic. Or you can play a bit more aggressive with a Resto Shaman. Effectively, Resto Druid and Holy Decay is probably like top tier. It's not going to be the best comp out there because you have counters. But I would say like you're going to win on mana most games. And like effectively win most games. You cannot play aggressive as a druid with that comp because again, if you are next to the DK, you're going to get cleaved or you're going to get destroyed by the enemy team. So you want to play like pillars, and you want to heal the DK, then go drink and try to win with mana, which is often going to be the case in 2s anyways. But I think that comp is going to be effectively a good comp to play if you are looking for Unholy Decay. You could play with a Mistweaver, that's also a possibility. Why not? And you could maybe play with a Holy Paladin again, but you have to play around your strength. I would not play with a Priest. Maybe with a Preservation Evoker you can also play, but it will be you will try to kill very fast because your mana is really shit for Preservation Evoker. But you can play very aggressive with both specs. So again, if you want to play aggressive, Preservation Evoker is like one of the better specs to do that. It just is like very countered by the meta specs out there, and you don't want to be close to the DPS, and in 2s you get close very often, and that's not always the best thing to do, right? Let's see what is next on the list. We have Fire Mage, and Fire Mage, I don't like it in like with a healer, but I'm going to suggest a healer, and that would be either with a Resto Druid, and you're going to try to win on your goes, so you have a Cyclone whenever you have your combust, and then you can win with maybe your combust with the Resto Druid needs to stun the kill target, so he needs to cyclone the off target, which is the healer, and stun the main target, so you have a full combust without like anything stopping you. The issue is there is too many like counter specs available, and it is not a caster heavy meta in 2s, so you're going to be like targeted like all the time, and it will depend on maps, it will depend on the comps that you're facing, and it will depend on your healer effectively helping you with setting up kills. Else there is always like the Fire Mage Holy Priest, which you have a range stun, so you can range stun the kill target and fear of the main target, the healer, after the first polymorph. So you get like a full 12 second CC, which is quite strong. But I think it is very hard for the fire mage to survive most games. Like, it's going to be a terrible thing to do. But again, if you want to play fire mage, you do you. But I do feel like those two are probably the best suited to heal. Maybe disc priest, but again, throughput is going to help fire mage, and I feel like those two are also having a lot of good CC opportunities. I would play with a fear DR for sure. You have to play with fear DR if you want to win. Frost mage, I would say it's the same, to be honest. Frost mage is, it's also a bit of a dampener. You have double ice block, so that there is that. You can play with a resto druid again with a fear DR, or you can play with either a priest, and that could work. But again, you're going to feel miserable as a frost mage in twos. But if you want to make it work, you have to play with those three, or you play with double DPS, like I said in the double DPS tier list, not tier list, but like the comp video. You can always check that out. Frost mages can actually have a lot of great comps to play, and so I would say grab yourself a subtlety rogue and you can do very well with it. I would say arcane the same. Let's get arcane also out of the way. Arcane the same, to be honest. You want to play with a subtlety rogue generally, but if you want to play with a healer for some reason, those three are probably the most effective ones. The same as fire mage and frost mage, because you need some setup to make it real. Retribution Paladin. Retribution Paladin, you want to effectively play with a very aggressive healer, so either with a Mistweaver, a Preservation Evoker, or a Restoration Shaman. You could play with a Resto Druid, but that's very dampening. I would not suggest to do that. Your games are going to be crazy long. Holy Priest, Disc Priest, I don't think they're able to heal the Paladin. But I do feel like those three are effectively great specs to actually have a great, effective, aggressive comp. But you have to play aggressive. If you don't play aggressive, it's going to be very rough to win games. So those are the comps I would suggest. And this, most likely a Mistweaver. You don't want to play custom Mistweaver with a Paladin. You don't want that. You want to have the damage. You need the damage because you don't have MS effect, so you have to compensate somehow. Windwalker. Windwalker is actually interesting. I think Resto Druid is the creme de la creme for Resto Druid. I think those two, for Windwalker, I think those two together are effectively very strong. They can do very well. They have CC, they have the damage, and Windwalker, they don't they don't need extra damage. They need extra healing. I think the best throughput healer currently to actually heal 1 or 2 targets max is Resto Druid. I think those two are fantastic. You could play like a disgusting comp, which is Windwalker Mistweaver. It's really disgusting to play against, but I do feel like there is a few counter comps available, and I think Mistweaver is currently more killable than ever before. So that's why you don't really want to pair up with someone that is also very squishy, which is Windwalker. This is also a very effective comp, very aggressive, but I do feel like, again, you don't need to be very aggressive as a Windwalker to win games, because the damage itself is going to speak volumes anyways. That's why I prefer with the Resto Druid. You could play with a Preservation Evoker, but I think it's a less Resto Shaman currently, so there is that. Let's see. So we have Windwalker here. Elemental Shaman. So Elemental Shaman, it's not the best DPS. That's for sure in twos, but you can find some solace into playing with a Resto Druid, and that's a very dampening comp. It's going to always have 5-minute games, except if you're playing a one-shot Elemental Shaman, and even then you should not do that in twos. In my opinion, it's very easy to stop. Since there's only 2 targets, it's very easy to dispel one of those flame shocks. You could also play the normal lava burst spec, which basically is going to be you trying to win out in the duration, and with a good casino, I would say you could win very quickly, but you cannot count on that. So I would say this is going to be very dampening. To be honest, Elemental Shaman, I don't suggest to do that in twos, but if you want to play Elemental Shaman, I would say that comp is probably the only one you can play effectively, I would say. The next one, we have Boomy, and Boomy, you wanna, in twos, you wanna play a bit of a cheesy comp, which is with a Holy Paladin. You wanna bop him, and you wanna try to win with a Convoke. You could do that in twos, or else you wanna win with a Cycle and Go into a Hajj, for example. into your root beam if you're playing versus a priest, or if versus a resto shaman or preservation work or whatever. You can win games with CC, but it's also dampening. You're going to have damage, but it feels like, again, you don't have a mess effect, and that's the one thing that is actually needed to win games in twos very quickly and very effectively. So let's see. Affliction Warlock. The best healer is obviously going to be Resto Druid, but as a Resto Druid, you can play very aggressive with an Affliction Warlock. You kind of need to play with a cat form Feral Druid, and you want to actually bleed them out and like have dots and the bleeds running, and you want to stun targets with maim. You want to help the Affliction Warlock set up the damage. If you're not doing that, you're going to lose potential. That potential of that comp is actually relying on the Resto Druid being able to play aggressive, and the Affliction Warlock actually being able to land those dots and keep up the pressure for the amount of time that you need to actually get a good stun into a good cyclone and effectively win the game. This is also very dampening, but often or not you can win very quickly if you know how to do so with a Resto Druid. So we have Demonology Warlock. We are soon done. Demonology Warlock is one of the best specs in twos. It's like BM. It has a mess effect on the pet, so it's actually very strong. In casts a lot, but in twos you're not stopped nearly as much as in threes. And I do feel like if you wanna have an effective comp, Warlock, Resto Druid, very strong. Warlock with a Resto Shaman, very, very strong. You could also play Caster Mistweaver. You can also play Fistweaver, Caster Mistweaver, or you can play Fistweaver. I would say those three are probably the best ones. I would say Resto Druid is probably the better one if you want to play aggressive. They have DRs, unfortunately, like Fear DR, both of them. But you win with attrition and with your CC as a Warlock, solely as a Warlock, and also it's very easy to heal as a Resto Druid or Warlock because he's the only target, so you know that your heals are going to be only for them. So if you have Hot Swap and you don't have a Dispel, for example, it can be very aggressive as a Resto Druid. So that's why I like to play that comp. So we have also Destruction Warlock, which is also a very good twos comp, but the problem is the pillars are your worst enemy, and if they know how to be careful and play around their strength, they're not going to be in open. Most likely they're going to play around the pillars. They're going to do their go, and then they're going to go back to the pillar to then go to do their second go and then try to win versus you. But I would say the best healers is again Resto Druid. You want to survive, and Resto Druid is the best like single target healer. He can also double target very quickly with like double hots. But I do feel like it's very easy for Resto Druid to play aggressive and also sustain the Warlock to the biggest and to the fullest, I would say. So those two are like very strong. Also with Resto Shaman, why not? You can play very aggressive with that. But you will feel like some games you're going to lose because you don't have enough healing to sustain the Destruction Warlock. The CC is very fantastic though, I'm not gonna lie. Shadow Priest, well, I think one of the better comps is with a Resto Shaman, so you want to play aggressive. You want to like use your CC. You have a stun, silence, fear, and then you can polymorph. You can also stun, silence, fear, polymorph, and then do another stun from the lightning lasso of your Resto Shaman. You can also effectively push the healer into a static field totem into a displacement. So effectively, he doesn't get to play. But you have to play around your CC. If you're not doing that, you're not going to win. Your all CC should be always on the healer. You cannot expend any CC on the DPS. So that's a difficult part, but you can actually climb very well with that comp. It's very strong. I like that as well. Let's see. We have another DPS, which is Enhancement Shaman, and it's quite underwhelming. You would play with a Preservation Evoker. You want to win very quickly. That's a comp to play. You could also play with a Preservation, like with a Fistweaver. Again, you want to play very aggressive. Or I would say a Holy Priest, because of the Fear DR, this rage stun. You can get sustained very quickly. You have to play aggressive as a Holy Priest as well. It's tough. Like Enhancement Shaman is not good in twos. like nowhere near good. So if you are effectively making it work, you are like very quickly in the top 50. Personally, I kind of despise enhancement shaman 2s except with a double DPS. So that's the only thing I play if I play enhancement shaman 2s, but I don't do that often because again, why would I like freely lose versus people who are not that good, for example? Like you will see that if you're playing enhancement shaman, you will lose versus people that you would think if I was any other spec you would win. And that's a terrible thing to have. Like in any game, if you're picking a spec and you would say, if I was something else, I would be winning. That's a terrible thing to say to yourself, and you will be saying that to yourself. So again, that's my tip for enhancement shaman. Try to play threes, maybe solo shuffle. Even then, it's not like the fantastic spec that it was. I kind of miss chain harvest, but I think I will make another video for that, but whatever. Thank you for watching this video. I really appreciate you. Hopefully you learned something. I kind of covered every single healer, so I don't feel like I have to say the best healer comp for a healer in 2s. But I think, again, if you watch the whole video, you would have an idea on what to play. If you don't have any choice, of course, any healer is going to be good in 2s. But effectively, if you want to gain CR, gain MMR, you want to play with the best healer possible. So again, try to follow the tier list. Like, it's not really a tier list, but try to follow this video and the information you got from this video. If you really don't want to play with a healer because you want to have like a exciting adventure in 2s, you can always play double DPS, and you will see one of these videos being the double DPS comp video. So please check that out. If anything, you can ask me anything in the comment section below. I'll try to help you. And if anything, please do have a great day. We will catch you probably very soon in the next video. Have a great day. Bye.